President Biden appears to be casting doubt on Nancy Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan next month. That's as the House Speaker receives threats from Beijing but bipartisan support at home. Dangerous encounters, priority surpassing counterterrorism. America's top military chief and Britain's intelligence head issue warnings about dangers posed by China. The organizer for a New York-based event gets a message from suspected Chinese authorities, including a death threat. And Chinese companies have been buying more and more U.S. farmland. A congressman is trying to stop it, but he's facing pushback. Welcome to China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's potential Taiwan visit is gaining traction. President Biden seems to be questioning the plan, while Beijing has threatened to respond if the trip goes through. Here's more on what's happening.
President Biden appears to be casting doubt on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's potential visit to Taiwan next month. Last week, when asked about the Speaker's plan, the president told reporters,
"Well, I think that the military thinks it's not a good idea right now, but I don't know what the status of it is."
Pelosi also responded,
"I think what the president was saying is maybe the military was afraid our plane would get shot down or something like that by the Chinese. I don't know exactly. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it. You're telling me, and I've heard it anecdotally, but I haven't heard it from the president."
Pelosi would be the highest-profile American policymaker visiting Taiwan in decades. Her predecessor, Newt Gingrich, met the Taiwan president in 1997. Beijing claims the democratically ruled island of Taiwan as its own. The Chinese Communist Party said it would respond with what it called forceful measures if Pelosi goes through with the Taiwan visit, adding that it was getting seriously prepared for the possibility. But at home, the House Speaker's plan has won support from across the aisle in Congress, as well as from former officials. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo offered to fly with Pelosi to Taiwan, while a Congress member wrote on Twitter that Communist China does not get to dictate who in America can visit Taiwan. Tu wrote a letter asserting that the House Speaker should never have to ask a foreign dictatorship for permission to talk to America's friends and allies. Meanwhile, in Taiwan, tensions are in the air. On Monday, Taiwan's capital staged air raid drills and its military mobilized for routine defense exercises.
In recent years, Chinese military planes have frequently harassed Taiwan, and the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out in February this year, and we need to be prepared when there is war.
Biden's administration has reiterated what it called its rock-solid commitment to the island's security.
Next, an update on the military sector. Top U.S. military officer General Mark Milley has warned that China has become significantly more aggressive and dangerous in the past 5 years. He says Chinese air and naval forces have made an increasing number of intercepts in the Indo-Pacific region, largely aimed at the U.S. and allied forces. Milley opted not to say how many unsafe interactions have taken place, but Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin gave several examples in a speech last month. In one case near Australia, a Chinese warship pointed a laser at an Australian aircraft. And over in Canada, a Chinese fighter intercepted a Canadian aircraft in international airspace. Milley says Japan, the Philippines, and Vietnam also have run into Chinese intercepts. Milley's comments come as he visits the Indo-Pacific region for a meeting with other defense chiefs. His first stop is Indonesia. The country is located where South Asia meets the Indian and Pacific Oceans. It sits on at least 6 choke point straits and is made up of over 17,000 islands. That geographical value has attracted attention from both Washington and Beijing. In his remarks, General Milley also warned that China's aggression could mean a possible invasion of Taiwan by 2027. That's as Beijing has sent multiple groups of fighter jets into the island's air defense zone this year. Britain's spy chief pointed to China as the agency's top focus. He said MI6 plays a role in helping British lawmakers navigate Beijing's black box of complex strategies. Here are the details.
China is now Britain's top intelligence priority. That's according to the country's spy chief.
We are putting more effort into China. We now devote more effort to China than any other single subject. So, for example, it has just moved past counterterrorism in terms of our mission. And that feels like a very big moment post 9/11, post 7/7 in London.
He points to the complexity of dealing with the threat posed by the Chinese regime.
This is still a pretty opaque system. I mean, at one level, understanding Xi Jinping's strategic intent is not difficult. If you read, Made in China 2025, he lays out for you their ambitions around technology and their desire to dominate key technologies. But if you go beneath that strategy in terms of how they implement, how they organize, how they, what their tactical intent is, and then what are the capabilities they're building up, that's a black box.
What's more, he touched on Beijing's influence activities in the UK.
And we've had a rather celebrated case in the UK recently of somebody working on behalf of the United Front Workers Department, whose job it is to try and influence our societies towards a pro-China position.
The United Front Work Department is a powerful agency under the Chinese Communist Party, tasked with overseeing foreign influence operations.
It's influencing other countries towards your position covertly, undeclared, using funding that's not on. So there's a lot of that going on.
Moore points out that Western democracies have one advantage that China doesn't: friends and allies that they can work together with to take on challenges.
Two top candidates for British Prime Minister have zoomed in on China in the run-up to their debates. Former Chancellor Rishi Sunak has been accused of being too soft on the communist regime, but this weekend came out with a strong stance toward Beijing. He says he will ban Chinese Confucius Institutes within the UK. The culture and language exchange programs have been accused of pushing Chinese propaganda in British and other Western universities. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, the other candidate for Prime Minister, and her team have scrutinized Sunak's change of heart, questioning what he's done as Chancellor these last 2 years. Here's an update from NTD's Malcolm Hudson.
China has become a key point of focus in the Tory leadership race. Former Chancellor Rishi Sunak said China is Britain's biggest long-term threat and promised to close all 30 Confucius Institutes in the UK, which are understood to be soft power arms of the Chinese regime. But his apparent anti-China stance has come under scrutiny from Liz Truss's supporters, particularly because Sunak's treasury pushed hard for an economic deal with the Asian nation. In a press statement on Sunday, Sunak drew a hard line against China, saying, "At home, they are stealing our technology and infiltrating our universities, and abroad, they are propping up Putin's fascist invasion of Ukraine by buying his oil and attempting to bully their neighbors, including Taiwan." He noted how the Chinese regime is using debt traps on developing countries as a power grab, and mentioned the detention and torture of Chinese citizens in Xinjiang and Hong Kong. He also said politicians in Britain and the West have rolled out the red carpet and turned a blind eye to China's nefarious activity and ambitions. From there, Sunak promised to close all 30 Confucius Institutes in UK universities. The institutes are funded by the Chinese authority and are understood to be propaganda tools. Under the guise of promoting Chinese culture in foreign nations, Confucius Institutes suppress discussion about topics such as Tibet, the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, and the persecution of Falun Gong practitioners. Sunak also proposed creating a NATO-style alliance against China's technological aggression and countering Chinese industrial espionage in UK businesses and universities. But those claims were met with scepticism by Truss's supporters. Sir Ian Duncan Smith called the announcement surprising. He said that over the last 2 years, the Treasury has pushed hard for an economic deal with China, despite China sanctioning 5 MPs. Duncan Smith noted the same issues Sunak raised and asked the former Chancellor, "Where have you been over the last 2 years?" Sunak's turn of heart comes in the wake of reports about his soft and even positive stance on China. In the recent leadership debates, he expressed a mellower position. Where values can be protected, he says he favours trade. On top of this is the positive coverage Sunak received from Chinese state-run media Global Times. It's thought his new stance seeks to win the support of China hawks by dispelling the image that he is too soft on China. Meanwhile, Truss's campaign has said, Liz has strengthened Britain's position on China since becoming Foreign Secretary. Her spokesperson said she will continue to do so as Prime Minister. Former leadership hopeful Tom Tugendhat welcomed Truss and Sunak's stances, saying, I'm pleased that both Tory leadership candidates have recognised the challenges raised by China and called to reduce strategic dependence on Beijing. Truss has had a year's worth of action to back up her stance. She used to be supportive of China, but over the last year we've seen her position turn around, whereas Sunak has only just begun to change his tune, so it remains to be seen how firm his resolve really is. Malcolm Hudson, NTD News, London.
That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for more than a year. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A look at a growing trend, Chinese purchases of American farmland, plus the pushback a congressman has faced in trying to prevent Chinese companies from doing it. And after that, a death threat to one New York resident who organized a panel on Beijing's threat. The full episode is available on our partner platform at Walk TV. To sign up, click the link down below. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Tiffany Meyer, and see you tomorrow.
The 2022 NTD 8th International Chinese Vocal Competition will be held from September 29th to October 2nd at the Merkin Hall of Kaufman Music Center in New York City. The competition is honored to have specially invited vocalists with the world-renowned Shen Yun Performing Arts to serve on its panel of judges. The gold award is $10,000. For more information, please visit vocal.ntdtv.com.